Hello everybody, this is the long-awaited next issue of American Music. Normally Billy Hancock is the host on this. However, he's on the road. He's traveling around, making some money, I hope. Anyway, he's out playing around. So in the interim, I'm going to be on this side of the camera, then being on the other side. So tonight afternoon, we're going to come in with two famous groups from around the Washington area, and people with a lot of history, music history. I'm going to have with me the part of the Clovers, the Orioles, and our special guest, another counterpart from up north, another TV station up in Bucks County, I think it is. He's has a show similar to this on his own up in Washington, up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Anyhow, let me introduce everyone here. Okay, my name is Ken. Your name is Steve.
Yes, sir. Glad to meet you, sir. Johnny Mason.
Okay. Off with that, anyway. Typical. Anyway, sitting next to me is Steve Charles. Been with the Clovers how many years now?
Well, I first used to be warm-up. Used to be in a band that was warming up for the Clovers even before I had a chance to get into the group. I officially joined the group in 1978.
Okay.
But even before then, we had a band that was backing the group. We doing shows around the Washington area. Okay. And that was when Chuck, those older folks will remember Chuck Booker.
Oh yeah, and, I remember him well.
You know, and he's Casey and all these guys, yeah. And we had done many shows with the Clovers. I replaced Roosevelt Hubbard. Okay. Who better known as Tippy, who was one of the leads with the Clovers for many, many years, and sadly he is no longer with us. But I replaced him. Okay. And you know, the rest is at this time real history.
And to your left is Mr. Johnny Mason, who has been you were prior to the Steve coming in the group.
Yeah, well,
and you had some history behind you also there.
Well, Toy brought me in '58. He was rehearsing with the Clovers, and he would have me sit around and listen to him, you know.
Okay.
And he was trying to teach me, you know. But it was a while before I caught on. You know, once I caught on, I came on in.
You haven't forgotten it since you got it, right?
Yeah. I'm regressing now, you know. Going back, you know.
Oh, me. Anyhow. Anyhow. Sorry, folks. That was me. Anyhow, and then to your left is Mr. Diz Russell of the original legendary Orioles. And how long have you been with?
I started in October 1954.
54.
I knew Sonny Till before that because when I was in St. Louis a few years before then, he says, if you're ever in New York, here's my card, give me a call. I said, what's the purpose of this? He says, I like the way you guys sound. I was with a group called the Kings and the Queen. Okay. And we made a journey back to Cleveland, Ohio, where we started from. But Rex Middleton took half of the group, and the other half, I told him, I said, well, Rex has gone back to St. Louis. So it's good that we'll just journey up to New York. They says, New York? We've never been to New York. I said, you're going to be there tomorrow.
Okay. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, and I looked for Sonny, but by that time we had a chance to sing at the Apollo, and we did a little nightclub thing, and we met Joe Louis, the boxer.
Oh, okay.
Leonard Reed, the dance instructor at the Apollo, and a lady named Mae Barnes. She had a hit record, and I told the guys, I said, we might get with these people and we'll be okay. So we were booked into the Apollo with Gene Ammons, the jazz man, and Moms Mabley, the comedian. And after the show, I go in the lobby of the theater and here's Sonny Till. He says, I thought you were going to call me. I said, well, I met Joe Louis first. Who's greater? I said, who's greater, you or Joe Louis? He said, I guess Joe Louis is. Okay. I say, so what do you want? He says, I want a different sound, and you guys have got it. So that's when we joined
up with them.
Yeah, wound up with the Orioles.
Okay.
And that wasn't the original group. We were the second group.
Okay.
And since I've been with the Orioles, we were the first rhythm and blues group to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And what year was that?
Oh boy, and it was somewhere in the 60s, I believe.
Okay. through a curve there.
Yeah, and Doo-Wop Hall of Fame,
okay.
Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame. All of these Hall of Fames, Sonny passed December the 9th, 1981.
Right.
But
I remember that.
You remember it?
I remember that.
And I guess everybody voted well. Since you know so much, you run the Orioles. Sonny's gone. So,
anything that nobody that we can't remember, dates or people or anything. I think the gentleman to your left could fill it in. Mr. Sam Edwards.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, let me say I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm a former radio host.
Okay.
Airing out of Vineland, New Jersey. I presently come from the Philadelphia area. My show is in Berks County. And it's about the history and the evolution of R&B music.
Okay.
It's entitled Salute to the Fabulous 50s. You know, to be amongst such noted individuals to me is truly an honor, because there's a lot to be said about the history of our music. And over the years, I've done extensive research in studying the evolution of R&B music. Okay, I'll also be remiss if I say the doo-wop is a term, doesn't describe R&B. It's a subcategory of R&B music.
Right.
But it's a real pleasure being here with the likes of Diz, Steve, and of course Johnny Mason, who I've
got
had
some
on
legends.
the show. Oh, I've got
Legends
some
right here.
living legends here. Yes.
But anyway, I think doo-wop, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, originated in the New York area, like in the Bronx, and probably it was, you know, it was a black thing, but then the white kids started picking it up.
Well, they picked it up and they changed it to rock and roll, and a couple more names, but it's all basically the same thing. Rhythm and blues was the original name. Doo-wop is a street corner.
Well, street corner.
It's city music.
Would,
actually, it's called.
I think yesterday or the day before was the anniversary of one of the finest doo-wop singers of the white genre, of Johnny Maestro. In the press, 16 Candles.
Yeah. May I say something? Because as a historian, I think that I have an obligation to correct, okay, when something is misstated. R&B, which is rhythm and blues. Doo-wop, okay, is a term, okay, that describes a certain style of singing. There's 5 elements that must be present. When you alluded to the groups coming out of New York City, they were not singing doo-wop, but they were singing with street corner harmony.
Right. Okay.
There were no no intentions to inflame it. There were no white groups during the period of doo-wop. Okay, as we understand doo-wop, that was recorded. They were singing what was later known as street corner harmony.
Okay. Yeah, there was. I mean, it just seemed like, you know, it was a thing that I guess the white kids started picking up. They were picking up I was one of them. I was one of them when I started off playing music myself. I was a white boy that came out, and the music I used to listen to WANN, WUST. All these stations, WLAC out of Nashville.
Yeah, I was always under the impression that he's right, but what I was always under the impression that rhythm and blues was a black thing, see, and whites didn't identify with it. Then you move to doo-wop, inner city music. Like you said, it's just city guys did most of the doo-wop, didn't they? Because southern groups were rhythm and blues groups.
Okay.
And then the white kids got in on it, and it became rock and roll. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
They kept cleaning up the name
from blues. And so doo-wop was still black music.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So,
But the involvement, it was an evolving thing.
yeah.
And, starting off with, even go back beyond rhythm and blues, when it was called race music.
Yeah.
And that was definitely black.
Oh, yeah.
The black genre
They used to have them on all the 78 labels.
described as
you're right.
race music.
All of it come out of
Then
church.
it began to
Yeah.
become rhythm and blues as it became more and more accepted up the chain, so to speak.
Correct.
And it became smoother and slicker. When you play the early show enough rhythm and blues, very little instrumentation,
Right.
lyrics very simple, some a little suggestive, a little
Quite
suggestive.
some of them.
And but as it began to evolve, and I think make a little money,
Somebody had to
it
jump on the
became
bandwagon.
smoother and smoother. And of course, the early '50s, the Clovers and the Orioles came along in the very early, when rhythm and blues was beginning to evolve and become slicker and smoother. Our role models, so to speak, were groups like the Ink Spots, Mills Brothers, but that type of sound had begun. That was that generation's music. Every generation has its own something they want to interject, they want to make their changes, and it becomes theirs. So we can evolve it from decade to decade, from year to year, especially through the 50s, where the late 50s became greater white input. Because
when they
your
jumped
late,
on the bandwagon,
your late
basically.
50s now you're coming into Elvis and Pat Boone and
Fabian, Bobby Rydell.
what's the group that did Little Darling? The
Diamonds.
Diamonds.
And a lot of people don't know that Little Darling was not recorded first by the Diamonds.
Yeah.
It was Maurice
Zodiacs.
Williams' Zodiacs.
Zodiac.
They were the Gladiolas at the time.
Yeah, the
but the same-
Gladiola.
Yeah.
The name was Gladiola.
Yeah.
And that was the first little. And the story of the Diamonds was they were recording it as a joke.
Right.
It was
they-
supposed to be a
they,
joke.
Jump over.
But
it.
Sam had said something earlier. The reason Little Darling was a regional, it couldn't get out of the box because of distribution. Remember saying?
Yes.
They had trouble getting it out there.
Okay.
Yeah, it played in maybe 2 states or 3 states.
One of the things back to Stephen, I just kind of want to piggyback on what you're saying. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on doo-wop. I just want, for the purpose of definition, to explain that the elements that must be included for a song to be classified as doo-wop, you mentioned 2 of them. The number 1 is nonsense syllables. Number 2, there's limited or a little instrumentation in the back. One of the most important elements, however, about doo-wop is that it must be accompanied by a lead singer, meaning, or group harmony in the back, I stand corrected. A singer in and of himself singing in a doo-wop style without group harmony is not classified as doo-wop, such as is in the case of, let's just say off the top of my head, Jackie Wilson. Jackie Wilson, when he went solo, who formerly sang, as we know, with Billy Ward and the Dominoes, was not considered a doo-wop type singer.
Right.
He must have group accompaniment in the background. I just wanted to kind of clarify.
Oh yeah.
Can I say something here?
Sure.
I had a little session with Sonny Till once, and I asked him about rhythm and blues. Where did it come from? He did a column with interview with Billboard magazine.
Yeah.
That was a big newspaper. I know everybody's familiar with that. And on the interview, the interviewer says, "What do you call this music that you guys do?" The Orioles were very popular then, selling music by the thousands. He said, "Well, we take a little rhythm and we sing a little blues." He says, the guy got up and says, "That's good enough for me." And the next day, the headline said, "Rhythm and Blues, new music found."
Actually, rhythm and blues came out of those cotton fields and tobacco fields in the South and out of church.
The church had a big influence on all the music.
Flamenco, whatever you got.
It had a big
Speaking of
influence
going
on that
back-
music, period. I'm sorry.
The origin of the names is a good subject. You had the Orioles, which was obviously
The bird.
birds. the
Baltimore birds.
the Baltimore birds, and you had the robins and the ravens and everything. Then you had the Clovers, which was, how did that come about?
Well,
The
if I
Clovers.
Johnny can correct me if I make a mistake on
Okay.
this, but Harold Lucas, bless his heart and God rest his soul, he started the group as a trio. And from what bits and pieces that I remember Harold talking about it, that they was like just kind of laying in a park or something on some grass. And Harold plucked a clover and looked at it and went, "This would be a good name for
Okay.
for a group." I mean, that's the way
That's the Detroit Park.
yeah,
That's what happened,
and he
over in the
just picked
park.
up a
Yeah, I think I've
clover
heard that. I
and
think I've
said,
heard that.
You know, this would be a good name for a group. And that's what happened. And that's what was happening. I mean, in later years, automobiles became, you know, you had
I was
the
just gonna get into
Cadillacs
that. I mean,
and
it's
the
evolved.
Montclairs and you know, you had all
That was
these
after the birds.
Stingrays.
Started with the birds, and
Yeah, the birds.
but I think the Clovers was about the only one that was vegetation. I can say that. Speaking of, okay, the Clovers. Name some of the big hits. Some
Well,
of the,
of course, one of the most remembered, of course, is Love Potion #9.
Right.
That's been
how many times has that been
used,
#1?
well, it's been used
That's what I
in the
meant.
motion picture soundtracks. There is a cable movie, Sandra Bullock, I believe, was in it, called Love Potion #9.
Okay.
And they played the Clovers version at the beginning of the movie, and at the end they jazzed it up with a little rap and whatever, you know,
Okay.
like they do in these days. But that and it was also in American Graffiti,
American
which
Graffiti,
is
I remember
probably
that very well.
was probably the cult. If you want to say rhythm and blues, doo-wop, whatever you want to call it, that movie is probably the ultimate movie of its type
The
to
cult movie.
feature this kind, you know, our kind of music.
Right.
Everybody had a cut in that, you know, playing in the background somewhere in that movie. And the Clovers were fortunate enough to have Love Potion #9, and we introduced it on stage
Okay,
like that.
okay, and some other.
Well, Devil or Angel, which has also been used in a few. Oddly enough, you know, I was with a lady friend many years ago, and she was a staunch soap opera fan, and we were watching some. I think she was a Young and the Restless fan, or so, and the background song in one of the scenes, "Here Comes the Clovers." Blue Velvet.
Okay.
You know, and I said, "What God? I'm listening to us." You know, and Devil or Angel was used in it's a Halloween movie made. Harry Belafonte's daughter was in it, called The Midnight Hour.
Okay.
And that Devil or Angel was in that. So a lot of our music, all the groups, and you hear it. I mean, even today, you listen closely to some of this background music. You'll hear some of the classics being played as background.
Speaking of, maybe we can roll a little bit of some B-roll footage we might have sitting in the archive. We might be able to come up with something in there. Maybe they can roll a little bit on it for us here. Hopefully it can be Love Potion #9.
Yeah.
Let's see if we got it. Okay, folks, welcome back after that wonderful performance of thing. I have to apologize. We were going to have a performance of the Orioles. However, when something happened, good old technical difficulties, my middle name, has caused the not able to roll. A wonderful thing by the Orioles. Can't do it. It didn't work up. But anyway.
And that's why we're crying in the chapel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you think of that. How many song titles can you, if you're just in everyday conversation, can you think of that to answer to a question or answer to anything? All of a sudden, you can come up with some song title or just the words out of a song. I mean, it pops up like mad. You know, you just think of it. That's why we're crying in the chapel right there. Anyhow, okay, on with the local music scene here. Of course, the Clovers, the Orioles, and what other groups did we have here locally back in that era?
Well, there's the girls with the Jewels. They came along in the very late 50s when they first started. Went on to travel with James Brown and have a couple of hits, records on their own. And who else you saying, Johnny?
Rainbows.
Yeah, the Rainbows. Rainbows have a fabulous heritage. Marvin Gaye, Don Corvée, and Billy Stewart came out of the Rainbows.
Right. What was Harlem Bethay's group?
And Mass Man.
El Capitan.
Yeah, there were. D.C. was like Philly and New York, had a boatload of groups. The only thing about the difference between D.C. and these other cities was there were no record labels.
Right.
Here.
Everybody had to go to Philly to
go.
record it, and
of
course,
then
they would take credit for it.
And so everybody was migrating away, but back, having gone to high school here in the district. Matter of fact, the Clovers were formed in Armstrong High School.
Was it Armstrong?
Armstrong High School, right here in the District of Columbia. And so there were, we jumped on the vocal group bandwagon along with the rest of the cities, but because there was no record production coming out of D.C., everybody was going somewhere else, and then a lot of groups just came and went.
Yeah. I think we may have one more picture in there, if you remember. Back in the days before the Clovers, or just before it. Yeah. Hey, out of the same category. We're from the same year.
Ah, yes.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah. This was this was the first Steve Charles and the Syndrome. People say, "What syndrome? It's like a disease or something." But this is back around, let's see, 67, 68, Starlight Club up on Irving Street, Northwest.
Which is now City Mall.
Yeah. But if you will look in the center back row, you'll see our own.
I haven't changed a bit.
And the nickname, Ken Beach Ball Briley. Never know, one day you'd look like one. All right. But that was an old group we had. We had a lot of fun with that group. Played a lot of clubs.
I was throwing something out of the moldy oldie thing there, but some other people that came out of this town.
Well, Duke Ellington, you can't mention people who came out of D.C. without mentioning Duke Ellington. And of course, Marvin Gaye. I mean, Marvin, he's got a couple of parks now named after him.
Right. Well,
Marvin used to live right there on Varnum Street, 14th and Varnum Street, Northwest, and he and I were born the same year. 1939.
Hey, we're there too.
1939 was a very good year.
You got to be about a few months anyway. Another one was, if you remember, I just recently found out. Well, not recently. Bo Diddley. Lived up on Newton Street.
And Rhode Island Avenue. He lived down on Rhode Island Avenue for a while. Yeah. I'll tell you a funny, quick one about Bo. Went to Bo Diddley's house when he was down there on Rhode Island Avenue, and everybody was sitting around hungry. It was wee hours of the morning, and back in the day when nothing was open, all night back in D.C., and there was about 20 pounds of potatoes sitting there. And we were all hungry, and nobody wanted to peel them. Everybody sitting up there starving. Nobody wanted to. I said, "Look, give me the." And when I peeled potatoes for Bo Diddley, so there's my claim to fame. I peeled potatoes at Bo Diddley's house.
Was that over on Newton or up on Rhode Island?
Rhode Island. Rhode Island Avenue.
I think later on he moved to Newton.
And
yeah.
what was it? Sam Hawkins. He was coming out
Yeah,
of this area.
Sam Hawkins came over there at Mount
he
Pleasant.
came out of this area,
3
and
minutes.
and of course Jeanette B, or Baby Washington, as she was known, was a product out of this area, and others. I mean, the list goes on, and especially musicians. This was a mecca. D.C. was a mecca of musicians, because James Brown, Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, and countless others came here to get their musicians. That's why you got so many musicians of the older genre that played with everybody. All the name acts came here to get their musicians. And the Washington, D.C. musician was
I
considered.
heard Wilson admit that.
D.C. musician was rated best in the country.
DC was going north, either south, in between.
Okay, off the old path of the old where it used to be and so forth. How about if we close out with we all get you all together, and I think we have another member of the legendary Orioles can come in and sit in,
Yeah,
maybe do a rendition, acapella of maybe a song.
Well, got to do it. Hey,
Let me get this
Dave sang with us at one time for a little while.
he's a clover roll or
He left
Oreo.
because he wanted some of the better things in life, a place to stay and something to
There
eat.
you are.
He's a Clover year.
Sam, I want you to stand up, stay right here, and just move your mouth, whatever you feel like doing. But you talk a lot about it, but we want to get you involved. Hey,
And he wants a copy of this.
yeah, okay. I want to pop his checkbook.
Leave that alone.
Okay, whenever you're all ready.
I took my troubles down to Madame Ruth. You know that gypsy with the gold cap tooth? She's got a pad down at 34th and Vine, selling little bottles of Love Potion #9. I told her that I'd been a flop with chicks. I'd been that way since 1956. She looked at my palm, then she made a magic sign. Said, now what you need is Love Potion #9. She bent down and turned around and gave me a wink. She said, I'm gonna mix it up right here in the sink. It smelled like turpentine, it looked like Indian ink. Held my nose, I closed my eyes. I didn't know if it was day or night. Started kissing everything in sight. But when I kissed a cop down at 34th and Vine, he broke my little bottle of Love Potion #9. Love Potion #9. Love Potion #9. One more time. Love Potion #9.